3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome back to Lessons and Blessings. I'm feeling blessed today. AJ, are you?
I'm feeling more lesson today.
Feeling more lesson.
Yeah.
You took an L, recently?
Take an L? What?
L for lesson.
Oh, I guess. No, but if you're blessings today, then I'll be lessons. I think that's how we
Good
kind
cop, bad
of
cop
like
today.
it. You know what I'm saying?
Valid.
Because if we're both blessings, the balance is off. Maybe we'll just call this episode just blessings.
Nah, it's definitely a lessons
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
It's the lessons
yeah.
first, and then literally the blessings that comes from
after,
that.
right?
But before we get into that, man, this is something phenomenal.
Talk about it.
We are recording live.
Right.
We were still in this apartment, not anywhere new, but
No, not yet.
we are recording live. Our 25th episode. Wait, where's the applause button? Is it B?
Oh my!
Wrong one. That was the wrong one. But we're going to take it.
25 episodes button.
We're going to take it. It was supposed to be an applause. It was just like this.
Did you figure out which one was the applause one?
I think it's A. It's not A.
We might as well find out. People already invested.
Hold on. Oh, this was long.
It's still
Okay.
going?
Yeah. Okay, this one's a all right, see? It's C.
C
for applause.
For applause.
All right, we're going to try this again. We're actually recording live. It's our 25th episode.
The crowd goes wild.
Or the crowd goes mild because there's nobody else in the room.
Yeah. Except for God. Hello?
Yeah, baby. Glory.
That's huge. Is this 25 episodes of us together
Oh, it's 25 total.
in total for the... Great.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Together, I need to count.
Yeah.
I
When
think
you
we're like at 10.
started doing this,
Mm-hmm.
did you think you'd hit 25?
No.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I can barely get through one.
Correct.
If
Took
I
a
can't
lot.
just do one consistently, how can I get 25? I knew it was possible.
Right.
Eventually, you can get 25. But to realistically put like a metric, okay, I hit 25 at this
Yeah.
point, I never thought about it because I remember if we go back to January when we met and we're talking about, hey, like we need to make sure that we do this consistently every
Right.
other week, no matter what. Let's stick to it. Granted, we did have a hiatus for 2 weeks.
A little summer.
Yeah, with a
break.
little summer break, and I think it's very instrumental. And I do want to get into that because we haven't talked about that in a while,
Sure.
actually. But we took a break because we felt like the Lord was really working on some very foundational things in our life, and we just had this moment where we're like, you know what? We really need to, be about what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
do what is not commonly done, even in the standard role and like monotony of what Christianity can be sometimes, but finding joy in that, finding purpose in that, and all these different things. So,
Yeah.
curious, from that Sunday conversation that we had, it had to be about a month ago.
Yeah.
About a month ago. What have you learned or what has changed for you in that time?
Yeah. I think you framed it pretty well. It was, I think, a moment that we just kind of recalibrated for ourselves half a year in of doing this podcast together. Just kind of, man, are we becoming the people that we want to become? And I don't think that happens in random moments, right? I don't think it just happens one day you wake up and you are. I think a lot of times it's an intentional choice. Man, I think I've learned in so many ways. I guess we've had many conversations about this. Some people might be a little bit more surprised to hear about it, but I think it took us work not just to start a podcast together, but then to really commit to each other. Hey, our friendship isn't going to be just this podcast.
Right.
Right. And so some of that break was us just feeling like just catching up and talking about things and going to lunch together and just kind of getting back dialed in with each other. And I think in a lot of ways, a lot of the stuff that we talk about on this podcast in general about being the kind of people we want to be, people that are obedient, that comes with having good community and being intentional in doing that. And I know that I think since we recorded our last one with Josh, that Josh has kind of reached out and we're trying to get now on a schedule of all of us guys kind of meeting up regularly, which I think is needed. And I think there is some sense of frustration that like you just kind of hoped at 26 you'd have some of this stuff down, and we don't.
Right.
And it takes work. And so I think it's both and. I think that as we looked at our own schedules and things like that, everybody's busy all the time.
Right.
but we are very, especially in America, we'll make so much time for capitalism in our life. Just, I mean, the pursuit of money and all those kinds of things. But I've recognized, and I think our conversations helped me really kind of put those into words that I needed. The things that I need most in my life is people, right? I'm not me without relationships. I can't exist on an island alone. And so I think our conversations have actually helped me just have that framework. And when you talk about having community, sometimes you have to reckon with the fact that you being in community specifically, like as yourself, comes with baggage of community. So you've got to do the work and recognizing, hey, it's difficult for me to reach out, or I don't enjoy this part of it. Or honestly, there's some days I just don't want to do it, but I need to have it. But I think it's been great. I think it's been great that we took, a couple weeks off, but a lot of things that I think are really important didn't stop just because we stopped filming. Right. We're still having conversation. We're still talking. I was still in the Word. We're still in the Word, doing all those kind of things. But I think it's just important every now and then. And I think this is just free advice for anybody that wants to do anything. Just have moments that you kind of get above whatever you're doing and evaluate. Right. This is something that Amos, our worship pastor, talks about a lot. But minding the gap. Sometimes the only gap we're concerned with is whatever we deem as success. So even if we talk about a podcast, maybe it's like, well, when we're 3 years down the road and we're monetized and we've got X amount of listeners and followers. But the more important gap oftentimes when you're doing it is how far you've come up into this point. So being able to look back and be like, dude, we've had half a year of being consistent. That's great. Now let's not just be consistent. Let's be intentional. In how we structure our own lives and things like that. But I thought it was great, and I think it showed us, again, sometimes I need reminding of it, that, our friendship is way more than a podcast, and it's more important to me than just sitting up every Friday or every other Friday and doing that. What about you?
Man, that was good, man. I was really I kind of took a slightly different route. I agree with everything you said. Because, I mean, we do live together. And so the route that I took in those 2 weeks was really understanding like some spiritual foundations. And I realized I wasn't really understanding grace the way I needed to understand it. And because of that, because of my natural tendency to be performance-based and outcome-driven, and that stemming into perfectionism and all those different things, like I would be really, really legalistic, and I wasn't having the right mindset of an understanding that Jesus has done it all and he wants to continue to do it all. Not he did it all once and then he gives you the reins. It's like, all right, now you got it. He's like, no, that's not the point of it. No, I did this so you wouldn't have to do this. And understanding that, bringing in some cultural things, that's really hard. That was really hard for me to really grasp. But the more I grasp it, like I went from understanding grace, and now he's leading me from grace to learning how to rest, and that's been huge. Like really even from not just spiritual, but the physical rest of learning how to take naps. Yeah, sure. Because I used to tell people, I can't nap. I just can't nap. I can't take naps. I don't know what it is, right? I can't turn my brain off. I got so much stuff to do. That's me not trusting that the things will get done if I'm not there. Right. If I'm not actually thinking about it. Because just thinking about something is not going to make it change. Yeah. And so I'm learning to take those moments of rest because my body needs it. I work outside in the sun every day. Yeah. And exerting a lot of energy. My body needs that time. I can't just only get it at night. So if I have time in the middle of the day, bro, just take a nap. It only gotta be 3 hours, just 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I've seen this as an act of worship in my own life to say, God, I am choosing to take a step back, even though I could be doing something. And he has blessed me a ton from just doing that and just with mindset and perspective on who he is and what he wants me to benefit from this rest. Yeah. And so right now I went from grace to rest. Now I'm being led to discipleship and learning what true discipleship looks like and the people that God has identified in my life that he wants me to disciple and walk with. Like I met with a few guys earlier this week and we just talked through it. Like, I was like, man, like it's really time for us to really take a step forward and do what this Bible is telling us to do. Absolutely. And if you really want to be the man of God that you want to be, you need to do it with community. Yeah. And so there's some other things that really don't really pertain to this conversation that there's no reason to share. But even in that, like there's some confession that happened in that conversation. I was like, yo, it was a heavy one. I was like, wow, that was crazy. But even in that, there was no shame behind them saying that. It was no condemnation behind them saying that. It was nothing behind that statement because I don't have any problem with saying what happened to me, what I did. Christ has already taken care of it.
Yeah, sure.
It holds no bounds on me. It holds no shackles on me. I was like, man, that was so encouraging, so powerful to me just to hear that, but not to get too far off track.
Yeah,
to kind of
sure.
stay locked in. This time has been very, very, very foundational, and in that, all of that, he has been unraveling my heart in different ways that I, quite frankly, didn't know it could. I kind of see it like a rose petal that I didn't, like you see the big rose, and you see the top piece, but I didn't know there's these layers that he's pulling off to make it more expansive, to make it more beautiful.
Right.
And as the dead ones fall off, it makes room for a new bud to come in and continue to blossom. So that's like, oh, that sounded really cheesy, but that's
just
how
like Shrek said that
onions
are like onions, right?
They have layers.
Layers.
You gotta peel them back.
That's right.
And so he's peeling back the layer by layer by layer, and uncovering like what he meant for me to, like what he meant for my heart to be, not just what I have accepted it to be based off of X, Y, and Z circumstances from, the good, the bad, the ugly, and in between. And so I think that's like a perfect segue to what we want to talk about today, because I text AJ today. I was like, man, I know what I want to talk about today. He's like, all right, go ahead. It's like, I want to talk about what it looks like to be an emotional man. And what I mean by that is I kind of want to break down what like the societal standards of what a man is versus what we have experienced from that, but also what we're also learning and becoming more emotional. Something you hear us talk about a lot is attachment style. We both have the very similar the avoidant attachment style. And because of that, we can be really closed off, and we can avoid these things. And, I'm going to be distracted because I don't want to confront this emotion or this thing. But as we were becoming more secure and being able to articulate our emotions and articulate our feelings and actually communicate that and to actually feel them, there are a lot that comes with that benefit us and other people around us, but also the adverse of that. We've seen how that has hurt people and hurt ourselves. So I kind of want to open up a conversation about that, because I feel like a lot of men don't have that space to be vulnerable. Yeah. Because in my definition, if I was to say what is a man is somebody that can be vulnerable. A man is somebody that can express his full range of emotions. Right? I'm not saying you do it well all the time. Nobody's perfect. Right. But we can express our full range of emotions and not feel the societal pressure or the pressure to, put on a face and to put on this facade. Like, I think there are times where you need to be strong, right? You don't need to show that much emotion to be logical. Those things are crucial to survival. Sure. Right? If we are in a burning building and everybody's hysterical and nobody's thinking about a plan how to get out, we're all going to burn. Yeah. We need somebody that can lock in. All right, exit that way. Let's go. Grab whoever we can grab. Let's get out of there. Yeah. That's pretty logical. But it's like a 1% situation. Sure. And so, yeah, man, that's like how I want to go into that. So, like, question for you, as you have, have you gone through your marriage and all these different things? I know we've talked about this before, but you've talked about how you are uncovering even new stuff about yourself. Yeah. Like I remember you saying how, for example, like before, you not like cuddles. No. But now you're like, oh, I need that, Yeah. Like, what was I know that's just one small bit, but I felt like for you that was such a major thing. Like, whoa, this is crazy. I never thought I would be here. Right. Like, what was the process like to get to that point?
No, it's a great question, because I think, obviously this is a massive conversation that can go a lot of different ways. But I think one of the first things that was pretty pivotal for me is understanding that, like, I didn't just show up today at 26 years old. I've had a story, I've had a history, I've had a past, and we begin before us, right? We have genetics, we have people, our parents, and how they raised us, and their parents. And so I think try as we might, it's frustrating to admit, but, like, your childhood affected you. Facts. And you can't be strong enough, air quotes on that, to overcome that just because you want to. Mm-hmm. It's impacted the way you see the world. It's impacted the way that you see yourself. And I think that marriage has provided the opportunity to look at some of those kind of thoughts and structures that are in my brain and kind of the filters I have and how I see the world, and just kind of hold them to the light and say, is this... I think ultimately, like when we talk about even taking a break in summer, you have to have moments where you kind of just have some self-awareness. You look at yourself in the mirror and you say, hey, here's kind of how I see the world. Does this lens do anything for me anymore? Or can I get rid of it? Like, is it actually doing something? Because a lot of times, those lenses were things that kept you alive or safe or whatever there was as a kid.
Big one,
right?
safe one.
But eventually they'll kind of become what contains you from growing anymore. And so you have to then look and say, hey, this thing served its purpose at some point in my life, but now it no longer does that, or now it's even detrimental and it gets in the way. And so some of that has been really in my relationship with Whitney, understanding, hey, there were times when I didn't feel like my full range of emotion, it was a safe place to express. And so I have to kind of look at myself and say, hey, that was true at one point, but it's not true anymore. And I found out a lot of the things that I would say about myself, and I would kind of end it with, that's just who I am. It's like, yeah, but no, that's just who you thought you had to be, or that's just who you were molded to be.
Right.
And now you get the choice, right? Because that's one of the things we try to make a great point about is, although we do have avoidant attachment styles, we've made extreme progress in those areas to kind of come out of that. And that's the beautiful thing about attachment styles is you're not stuck in one.
Right.
You can get to a secure attachment one. And so I think in my own life, it has looked like being, potentially one of the only men in my family that is able to look and say how I feel about something. Not, hey, I think this is wrong, or I think this should be better, but like, hey, when you do this, it makes me feel this way. And I think, to your point, it's not that you have to be emotional, quote unquote, all the time.
Right.
It's the fact that some things of being a man, you need the tool of emotions. Just like the same thing that you need the tool of being able to think logically. But when you bring a knife to a gunfight, in either way, if you bring logic to an emotional fight, it doesn't help anybody. Right? Because if the whole point is that I'm trying to be emotionally vulnerable, or that we're trying to ask what I think and feel, and I just haven't used those, I think it's just as simple as looking at my own self and being like, hey, there are needs that I've had that haven't been met before, and now I have the opportunity and security to have that with my wife, but I have to be honest, I don't know how to do that. I don't have that skill set yet. So just the same way that you would think about learning something in school or learning something in life, it's a skill set to be developed, and it'll be necessary at some point, right? I just think that maybe a lot of people in our generation, we have this conversation a lot. We might be kind of in the prime position in our family trees to be the first people to say, okay, I'm no longer going to like keep this family failing at this emotional test and aspect. I'm going to look at myself long enough. I'm going to ask difficult enough questions about why I do the things that I do. And then I will, in some ways, you think about a family tree like a river. I'm just going to divert the course. We've been going in this one track for a long time, and it worked at some points. It was great at some points, but we just have to be able to do more than that. And so it looks like a lot of me sitting down and having uncomfortable, difficult conversations with Whitney and saying, hey, when you did this, it made me feel this way. Or, hey, when you said this, reminded me of when I felt like this, and I don't think I've dealt with that, and so I need to deal with that, which sucks, right? Because that's the deal is you can ask the biggest bodybuilders, right? Physical strength does not equate to emotional strength. They are different things. So sometimes it's just looking in the mirror and be like, hey, I think I'm weak, and I gotta grow.
That's good. That's solid. Like, I, especially when you're talking about when you have to bring that stuff up. Like, shock, I didn't even announce this on the pod, but I do have a girlfriend. Her name is Katie. She's awesome.
Oh, shout out.
Hold on. Here's the here's the applause.
Yeah, you got it.
She's awesome, and I've grown a lot from being in that type of relationship with her, because I never had to dive deep into myself before any relationship I had before. It was just, pretty much doing what the culture says. Hey, you date, you might mess around a little bit, and you just grow. And if it lasts, it lasts. If it doesn't, on to the next type thing, right? But this one, actually building a relationship based off of the foundation of Christ, you're forced to do things different. You're forced to, confront certain things. So I think we all have the opportunities, just the way that relationships work, regardless if it's romantic or friendly. You will, if you do life with people the right way, you'll be forced to deal with something. They will say something that's gonna bring us something from the past. You will say something that will bring up something from somebody's past, and now everybody's like, I don't know why I feel this way about what you said or what you did, and it can not even directed toward. If it's directed towards you, then that's pretty blatant. But when it's like a not like not a sneak diss, but a stray bullet,
diss,
a little stray bullet, like that wasn't meant for you, but you got hit anyway. You was like, wait a second, why do I feel this way? What are you gonna do when that situation comes? Are you gonna tuck your tail and run and then just bury it? Oh, it's gonna be okay. Which is what I became accustomed to doing because I would just compartmentalize and it's fine. But eventually that file cabinet gets full,
dude. And
then next thing you know, at the time where it happens again, and now it's time to add something else. There's no room for it.
Yeah.
And now can't close it. Now all of a sudden, now it's all spilling over at the same time. And now it's overwhelming. Now I say something I should have said. Now I did something I shouldn't have done. Now I'm just like, how did I get to this space? But if you go back all the way, you had every opportunity to deal with it. But a lot of times we don't have the tools to actually manage it. Yeah. So when it comes to getting the tools, not knowing what you know now, it's kind of biased. Like if somebody came to you, you can kind of identify, oh man, you're running from this because of X, Y, and Z. Yeah. You did it with me.
Yeah.
And sure. I remember, I remember this. I was like, just don't even know me, bro. How can you know so much about me? Like,
you don't know nothing.
Like,
oh, dude.
I rejected it.
Yeah.
And literally 3 months later, I was like, man, this dude was freaking right. Because I remember I didn't listen, and I did some research on my own, air quotes.
Right.
And I discovered it myself, air quotes.
Yeah.
And I came back like, wait a second, this is exactly what AJ was talking about like 3 months ago. Yeah. And I rejected it. Hey, bro, I need some help. Like, when it comes to getting the tools down, how much can you excuse somebody's actions the way they are based off the lack of resources versus the unwillingness to change? Because
that's a great question.
Because I think because you have a lack of resources, you don't want to change because you don't want to appear stupid. You don't want to appear weak, like we mentioned before. You don't want to appear inferior. You always want to have this, okay, I got it together. I'm good. I got it mentality. So how do you, like, where do you feel like the line is in that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's worth noting, I'm not like a trained professional in this. It's just my own story. And I try to help people that I see kind of in similar things. Because I think by and large, our society cares way more about the outer shell that we put out. And I don't even just mean in a materialistic or in a physical sense, but even like how we come across with our personality means way more than like the junk underneath. And you're right. There is this delicate balance between, hey, you don't know you do this because nobody's ever told you, right? And you can't figure some of that stuff out on your own, right? Mm-hmm. This is the same thing. Like even if it's not even just emotional, but these are conversations that Whitney and I have with couples all the time, or people that want to get in relationships. So I'm like, hey, you can't say it like that. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's like, no, you just don't understand. You just haven't been here yet. And so I think oftentimes, you have to have a sort of secure commitment. And what I mean is, let's say that I met you on the street, or let's just say, a year and a half ago when I met you for the first time. If I would have kind of come out of the gates with that stuff in a conversation with you, it wouldn't matter because you don't know me. You don't know that I care about you, right? And so my pastor used to hit me with this all the time, and it's a cliche, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so I could have the answers, but until I prove to be somebody that has their best interest in mind and they know that they can trust me, or I can present it to them like, hey, I just want you to look into this, and that might be helpful, then it doesn't really matter. I think it's the balance of knowing the right thing to say at the right time. But it depends, right? Because there's a commitment, even think about marriage in general. I'm willing to do a lot more of the heavy lifting with Whitney and be honest because I know that both of us are committed in doing the work. So there's a security. Now, if you're just dating, there isn't that kind of like straight up security and commitment. I told a couple this past week. You can leave for anything.
True.
Like, and let's not try to paint it up to be something it's not. It doesn't have to be a good reason to break up with somebody. You can break up with somebody for any reason, right? But like, there's this level of, if I say, hey, covenantly, I'm in this with you, then I don't have to worry about that. I can go all the way in. And so sometimes the conversation is, hey, you've got to wait until you can find some people that you really feel secure and safe around. And the caveat I would give to that is those relationships don't just fall in your lap. Sometimes the step is developing a good relationship first.
Right.
But I think people, I think seeing enough people over time, people that are actually at a point that they want to do the work and people that don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes I'll and sometimes people will ask, hey, what do you think about this? And I'll give them that answer. And in how they respond or in how they choose to live their life from that point on, I know they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is another thing that I've had to learn is I'm just not going to waste my breath and time on people that don't care on what I have to say. And that doesn't mean only people who agree with me, but I'm saying when I'm trying to help people do deep work, I can't make somebody want to do it.
Absolutely.
So I have to wait for somebody to kind of express, hey, I don't want to be this way anymore, and I'd like some help.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. I think it's obviously a case-by-case basis. I would say it depends on our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we would have continued on our relationship path, there probably would have come a time at some point anyway that I was like, hey, I think that you're struggling with this, and I think you need to look in the mirror about it.
Yeah.
But only after you know that I love and care about you. But I also expect that of my friends for myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, I think it's a difficult tightrope sometimes, but some people, I think they get so excited about their own story, about their own transformation, that they just kind of want to go and throw people into it. And even you can extrapolate this to Christianity. Sometimes you get so on fire to share about Jesus because of what he did for your life. And I'm not saying that's bad, but people have their own walk.
Right.
They have their own story. They might not be ready to hear. And so you have to transition a little bit more to, it's the Christian idea. It's the parable. I'm going to plant a seed. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to see what you do with that seed. Mm-hmm. If it takes root and it grows and you say, oh, man, I think there's some things going on underneath I want to deal with, great. Let's have conversations. Let's meet up. If I plant seeds about it and I kind of poke a little bit and the seed just dies. You just don't care. You just don't want it. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to spend my time watering other people's seeds. And then maybe we'll revisit this whenever they're ready.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the person who doesn't care, because I was once that person.
Yeah.
I didn't care. At one point, and something that helped me care is when I hurt somebody that was very, very near and dear to my heart, but I didn't realize how near and dear to my heart until I hurt them in that way. Do you think, I would have had to describe it in one word, be apathy, to the point to where it's like, it's whatever.
Yeah, I would say it's a mixture of things. So sometimes it's that we don't like being told what to do, right? Particularly for you and me and our personality and our attachment style, especially when we're having those conversations, the way that we stay safe is by staying by ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so if we feel like somebody is coming in and telling us how to feel, telling us how to be, that makes us feel like we're being invaded by somebody else. Mm-hmm. And that is like death. That is so painful. We don't want it.
We lose our autonomy.
Exactly. And so that's kind of the chief thing. So sometimes it's more accurate to say it's fear. I just don't want to look in that room. I don't want to look in that closet because I think that if we're honest, we'll have moments throughout the days that we have that we're just like, I didn't like the way that I responded there, or I don't like responding that way, or why did I feel that way? And sometimes societally we've just been taught, just put that down, bro. Just don't even deal with that. And so sometimes it's like once I open and I look, I can't unknow.
Yeah.
So there's a choice that you have to make. Am I going to be brave and heroic enough to stare in the face the things that scare me about me? And because at some point you have to acknowledge that there are things that are wrong. And I don't mean wrong as a term of right and wrong and shame and you should be better, but things that are in your personality because we're in a broken world that have gone awry, and we just have to look at that so that God can deal with it. And so sometimes people want to run. They just want to run. They're afraid. They don't want to deal with it. Sometimes people are stubborn, and so they sometimes they use that by a form of apathy, right? Well, I don't even care, whatever, my life's fine. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. We don't like being wrong, so it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to come terms to I'm messed up in some pretty profound ways. But it's kind of the same thing I was talking about. Whatever those motives are behind there, I think it's a life skill, especially in arenas like this, when we're talking about really deep emotional work and Christianity, outside of Christianity, just really deep emotional work. You got to wait for people's ears to be open. So what that would look like practically for me and you, let's say that we hadn't have any of the conversations that we had and you were still kind of acting out of this avoidant attachment style. And I was starting to recognize, and I knew pretty early on that you were going to have to come to this reckoning at some point. What that means is I would wait until you came and you were pretty busted up and broken about something. Sometimes that's getting broken up with. That's what it was for me. Sometimes it's losing somebody because you hurt them. So whatever it is, somebody tells you what they think about you, and what people think about you and who you think of yourself are not the same person. That happened to me. That was very painful. That's when you come in and you say, hey, nobody likes being in pain, but pain is a great opportunity to like zoom out and say like, how did I get here? And do I want to continue to be here? Because I don't like this feeling. I don't like how I felt. I don't like how I'm feeling right now. I don't like what the forecast looks for me. I need to choose a different way. It's the same way that kids learn, right? I put my hand on the stove and I'm like, I don't think I like that anymore, so I'm not going to do that anymore. And also the pain of figuring out what is good pain. And so it would look like you coming into the church on a Tuesday, really broken up about something. You know, maybe that means you and I, because we built a relationship, you come to me and you break down and you're crying. You're like, I'm struggling. And a lot of times for people that haven't done the awareness, they'll say things like, I'm lost, I'm drowning, I don't know what way's up, nothing is working out. And then that's where you kind of come in. And for a lot of those cases, it's like, hey, you got to get your relationship with God right. In our specific case, it would be, hey, man, I have noticed that you're acting out of this framework, and some of that would be us having a conversation about what happened as a kid or what happened relationally. Because my story is, hey, these things happened to me as a kid. These things happened to me as a young adult trying to navigate the world, and I got hurt. And so a lot of times it's the opportunity when somebody like, think about showing up, being in pain, and somebody cares enough about your story to say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. That sucks. It's wrong that happened to you. It shouldn't have been that way. And then all of a sudden, it's like the weight finds a place that it can stop. It can get off your shoulders and sit there.
Yeah.
And so then we can have a conversation because you're like, oh, you don't think I'm a problem. Like, you don't think I caused it. You don't think I deserved it. It's shame. But then we can have a dialogue about, hey, I'm sorry that happened to you. And it's impossible for that to happen to you and not to shift the way you think about yourself or shift the way you see relationships. So then it takes someone just to say, hey, if you didn't feel safe as a kid emotionally, then you're going to try to meet all your own needs.
Factual.
Which means you're going to try to get in a relationship because you desperately want to be in a relationship with people, but getting close is going to feel like you're dying. And so because you feel like you're dying, you're going to pull away and you're going to lose the people you don't want to lose. Do you want to do that anymore or not?
Right.
And then we can start a conversation.
Right.
Right. But sometimes you got to wait for somebody to come limping in.
When you say that, I automatically get brought to how Jesus leads us in that.
Sure.
And using the broken things to put you back together, literally. I'm like, I just think, I mean, every time I hear this conversation, it always comes back to, I think about a verse in 1 Peter 4. I quote this a lot. It's like, don't be surprised when the trials come to test you, like there's something strange or happening to you, but rejoice in it so far so you can share in Christ's glory when he's revealed to you. Yeah. Or the verses in like James 1, consider it all joy, my brothers and sisters. You know, when you go through various trials many times, like the testing your faith may produce patience, let patience have perfect work, so you may be complete and lacking nothing in Christ. Right? And then there's a litany of other verses that Jesus is talking about, say, hey, you will have trials and tribulations, but remember, I have overcome them. Yeah. You will have them, but they won't have you. That's right. So when I'm faced with these moments, for example, recently I had a situation with Katie, and we were just talking about something, and she had made a comment that somebody had said. I'm not gonna get too much into the details, but when I heard the comment that somebody had said, it took me back to my last relationship, the exact same comment that I never dealt with. So in the moment, it was so much resentment. I'm like, yo, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, I need to figure this out. So I was talking to God. I was like, God, why is this coming up? And it's like, because you never dealt with it. You just, air quote, moved on. You never healed from it. You never forgiven. That's the big thing. I never forgiven those people. Yeah. Because a lot of times sometimes a lot of things that come to you as stray bullets I mentioned earlier, like, aren't really meant to hurt you because you have a wound from years ago. Right. As a child or something that you just compartmentalized or haven't even remembered. You just, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I don't know all of a sudden why I'm dejected. All of a sudden why I'm I'm disassociating, all these different things, right?
Yep.
And so as I was doing this deep dive, I remember the conversation happened that Saturday night. I woke up that Sunday morning still thinking about it.
Yeah.
And God was like, hey, you need to forgive this person. You need to forgive this person. So I'm starting to name these people, name the thing that hurt me, and releasing that. Like, I forgive this person for this. I forgive this person for that. And then we talked about it that Sunday night. And she's just sitting there looking at me. She's asking me questions and stuff. And I'm crying and all this stuff. And I was like, I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to be crying.
Yeah, of course you knew you would.
And I just stopped for a second. Like, you know where else is coming from? I was like, this is coming from years of rejection over things that I could not control.
Yeah.
And listing all those things out, and having her there to just sit there and listen first, and then like she look at me and smiles. Like, I'm like, what the heck are you smiling for? Like, there's nothing. Stop. There's nothing funny. There's nothing to smile about right now. I am in pain. I am hurting.
Yeah.
And then for her to encourage me and to reassure me the way that she did, like I've never had anybody do that for me, as a human at least.
Yeah.
Jesus has done it for me like many times, and it's
For sure.
incredible. Like I'm a crying mess usually when those moments happen. But to have somebody to look at you and to reassure you in that way, man, like those words genuinely touched my soul.
Yes.
And it unlocked this childlike love and raw emotion. I genuinely didn't know what to do with. I'm like, we were talking about this earlier. I was like, man, I'm having all this stuff coming up. It's not the first time I've said these exact words, bro. I'm having all these new emotions. I don't know what to do with them.
Right.
Like, where is all this coming from? But I just think about how in the scripture where it says God's going to give us a heart of flesh and take away a heart of stone. Like, a lot of us we've hardened certain parts of our heart have been hardened by our hurts, but other parts of our heart have been hardened by us. Mm-hmm. Because, you know what, if this happened, then I'm going to protect myself so I can do this. And I have this big casing of stone around my heart, and then you forget what it feels like for your heart to beat.
Right.
It's surviving, it's beating on its own, but you have so many walls up, you don't even feel the heartbeat anymore. Yeah. But the second you get that first heartbeat, you're like, oh, I feel that. I know exactly what that feels like. I am going to it's a no for me. For that reason, I'm out. You're right, like Shark Tank style. Yeah. And with each, it's almost like the Grinch, right? Like this, like the visual, the visual I get is the Grinch. Yeah. Well, his first time is like, whoa, what is this? Why what is shriveled little heart? Yep. You know, he look at little Cindy Lou and he pulls her from the shredder, and his heart beats for the first time in a long time. He's like, oh, I'm dying. Oh, what is this? And then he like physically beats himself to get his heart to shrink again. We do that all the time. But when you get into that moment where you finally can let go and be free and like, oh wait, this is not going to be weaponized against me. Right. Wait, this is not going to hurt me if I talk about these things. And I think it's your point earlier, and where we're talking about the last episode, like the importance of community and having people that trust you and actually genuinely love you and care about you, really puts you in a place to where you can actually grow and heal from a lot of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you do need to go to, I think a lot of people should go to therapy at least once. I mean, maybe 3 times, because just once you're not really comfortable with the person you're talking to. Right. Like, go consistently for 2 or 3 months if you can afford it, right? Just to see what they think and all these different things. But ultimately, though, you should be doing this with God first, because if you're not able to be honest and truthful with the one who created you, who knows all and everything that you have done, will do, and do think, all the things that have been, that you are hurting, like that things that have hurt you that you're holding on to, if you can't give those things to him, what makes you think you're going to give those things to people? Yeah. And if you can't give them to him and trust him, no wonder why you won't give those to people and trust them with it. Right. Or you get hurt even more because you put too much trust in people because you never trusted him. That's right. Firstly, and honestly and earnestly, and like in becoming this softer man, I would say, becoming this kinder, just more still, peaceful guy when it comes to like the more emotional things. The one word I use freeing earlier when we were texting. Yep. But I want to use a different word. I want to use is stable. Sure. Because when I look at James, when it talks about being unstable in all ways, tossed to and fro from the ways, and different things like that, you can take that verse and test your life to that verse. In what ways am I stable, and what ways am I not? Right. And usually in that, is a distrust somewhere, is a fear somewhere, or usually a combination of those both, between what God has said versus what I'm saying, what God has said versus what was said to me, what God has said, what I believed, what God has said, what the enemy has fed me lies, and you gotta sift through all that stuff, and once you get to a place of stability, you're just like, man, I can finally rest. Like you said earlier, that weight has been lifted off, and now you're feeling free. Not gonna use you feeling free to actually be who God has called you to be.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about that is so many people are waiting on you to do that deep work.
Right.
So many people need the full, authentic version of you, the heart that has been, was once broken, has been put back together. But now it's finally healing. Now it's beating how it's supposed to. Now it's pumping blood efficiently, and now it's giving life to the whole body the way that it was intended to. And now so many people are going to benefit from that. Not just you, but people are waiting for you to work on that healing. Like, not just your immediate people, not just your relationship. Like, even think your future kids. We have this conversation. I don't want to repeat the same things that happened in our childhoods.
That's right.
Now, granted, every time you say that, you realize the apple truly doesn't fall far from the tree, because you get in a situation like, man, I'm just like my dad, or I'm just like my mom, or I'm just like my brother, or whatever. But even when you have those moments, are you willing to acknowledge that, okay, I am this way?
Yeah.
Am I ready to take the next step and move from that and heal, or whatever that process looks like?
Right.
And so, yeah, it's just, I just be wanting to cry, bro. Like, just cause.
Yeah.
Literally over nothing. I'm like, man, if I can cry on command right now, I'm in traffic, like at a red light. Just let it go.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, is like it's not for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Because something made you feel something,
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's, I don't know, when I think about kind of what the definition of being masculine has turned into, and obviously I think right now is a really difficult time to find yourself anchored to any definition of masculinity, because all of it is under fire right now.
Right.
Man, I feel like when I think about what kind of man do I want to be, and I think about these life groups that I've been a part of, right? And we used to joke about it a lot. But we, our group of guys in sophomore year, I think we had this leader, maybe freshman year, that went into that literally he opens up with a joke, or at least what we think is a joke. Maybe he wasn't, but he goes, all right, everybody's gonna say their deepest, darkest secret, and we're just gonna start, and that's how we're gonna start this group. And everybody, we laugh, we kind of look around, but then somebody goes first.
Uh-oh.
Somebody goes first, and you going first gives everybody else permission to go after.
Yeah.
And so when I think about masculinity, these are conversations that have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're not optional. They're not non-negotiable. I think that we've kind of bought into this lie that you're a lover or a fighter, which I think is ridiculous. Because like, if you even think about like heroes, heroic people, think Superman, right? This is such a symbol of it. Like, the same fist that he have to use to like destroy these crazy roided up aliens and things like that, or these villains that are trying to bring harm to the people that he loves. He's not using that strength with the people that he loves. He uses that strength to protect the people that he loves, but then he's gentle with them. He's soft with them. He's not always amped up or those kind of things. And so I think that we bought into this idea that we always have to be superhuman and strong, but that's not what people need at home. They need the man out of Superman. Super's got to be out there where he has to fight battles that only he can, but man has to show up when he comes home, and he's got to be soft in how he talks to his wife and his kids and those things. But when I think about what it means to be a man, I think it means that when you're able to, you go first, right? And I'm not here saying that women can't initiate. I'm not saying that you guys can't be the first. Oftentimes it does go that way. But there's some self-sacrificial element to men and masculinity as God designed that says we'll lay down our life. And I think a lot of men are comfortable dying for the people that they love. I don't know if they're that comfortable being emotional first with the people that they love. They're fine being like heroic and going out that way, but I don't see a lot of things more heroic than you being willing to look your own junk in the eyes, because that gives everybody else permission to go after you. And what I think about it is the reality is there's something. Even if you're like, I think I'm in a great place. I didn't have a horrible childhood. I didn't go through abuse. Not everybody's story is that you had horrific abuse growing up. But something happened that caused you pain. And what you found out, what I found out, what everybody finds out, the image that comes to my mind is walking through a forest. And you know that some branches or logs or things that have fallen over look like they're fine on the outside, and then you step on it and it's rotted. And your foot just goes through the log, right? Well, the issue is that they all look the same on the outside. And so sometimes when we're jabbing, we're playing, we're having situations come up, somebody stands on the log, and oftentimes it's fine. It supports, it's there, it's what it's supposed to be, you're hanging from it, whatever. But every now and then, you step on one, and the foot goes straight through it, or they put their weight on top, and they fall down with it, and you're like, ow, that hurt. The opportunity there is if we take care of our own business, and we're committed to doing the work. That doesn't mean that we put it all on our own shoulders. Like we said, it has to be in community. Instead of those emotions coming out and lashing out the person who took a step and they didn't know what was there, we can deal with it and process it in a way that says, hey, it's okay that that part was broken and this person didn't mean to hurt me. But oftentimes what you'll see in these dynamics, particularly in our parents and their parents, is that they shoved it down, they shove it down, they shove it down, they shove it down until something makes them feel similar to all the things that they're shoving down, and it all comes out. And it all comes out. And then you're angry, you're abusive, you're whatever you are. Now your kids are paying for that. Now your wife is paying for that. Now your friends are paying for that, right? And it's like, Whitney and I had to have so many of these conversations. It's like, I feel like I'm walking kind of on eggshells or like a minefield. I'm not trying to set these things off. And vice versa. Sometimes she felt like it was that way with me. Some of the work is saying like, hey, there are mines in my life. When you set them off, I'm going to commit to do the work to figure out why they're there, and I'm not going to be mad at you that you blew up something because it wasn't you, right? But like you said, somebody said something, and it made me think of the last time somebody said this. And because I haven't dealt with that, there's some explosive element to that. But you had the opportunity there to look at Katie or anybody who's in that situation before and blow up on them because you're hurt. And you're frustrated, and you're angry that somebody said that about you before. But they didn't deserve that.
Right.
She didn't cause that. She just stumbled upon it. So when somebody stumbles upon it, you have the opportunity to shift all the blame on them. You made me feel like this. Or you have the opportunity to be like, I should find out why that mine was there in the first place. And now how can I find that? And by doing so, how can I teach myself to disarm the ones that are still there, or be aware enough to know when one gets set off, I continue to not blame somebody else. That's manly to me. That's heroic to me, saying I'm not going to make you pay the price for somebody else. I'm going to do the work that I have to do in order to do that. And if I go first, they'll go second. Somebody will respond. You'll find friends that look around the room and say, what, you're sharing everything? I'll share everything. And I tell you what, a lot of people wondered how our group was so close, how our group was so connected, how we had honest conversations. It's like, well, we started with the worst thing. What are we not willing to talk about? I know what this dude's addicted to. I know what this guy did. I know what happened to this dude. We've already gone there. I am not saying you need to go to Starbucks and just start sharing your deepest, darkest secret.
Not wise.
That's not what you should do. But develop some friendships where you can go there and have those conversations like, hey, this is the friend I need in my life. Are you interested? Do you want to go there with me? Because I'm willing to go.
Right.
And we all need to. And that's something I tell my friends all the time. Hey, it doesn't have to be with me, right? Everybody does not have to share their deepest, darkest secrets with me, but you got to share it with somebody. Somebody has to know. So sometimes it's just kind of going back and forth. The idea that we've been given to as men is that it's heroic or it's manly to shove it down and pretend like it's not there as if we can get on top of it. The issue is that we're human. So eventually that pressure thing is going to blow up. And instead of it blowing up on the people that you love that are going to be around you when that happens, what if we just go and we look in, we open that closet, and we start saying, how did this get here? How can we start bringing the temperature down? How can we start bringing the pressure down? How can I start letting people in the room without it setting me off? And for some people, like you said, that's work in therapy. You got to be with a professional to do that. But for a lot of us, there's steps that we can take right now, which is, I didn't like the way that I reacted there, right? And I think the first step in this thing is when you get set off, not just saying, I don't know why I'm mad. Think. Consider. Have you ever thought, like, has there ever been something that made you feel this way before? And then all of a sudden you'll get the dude that's like, well, I guess this one time my baseball coach said that I was a worthless piece of garbage and I wasn't going to amount to anything. Maybe that's it. Maybe. Let's talk about it. Let's. We do that. We're like, yeah, the only time I could think about is that my girlfriend cheated in front of me and drove away my car. She stole everything I had, but I don't know why I'm upset.
What do you mean, bro?
What?
Yeah.
And sometimes it just takes the person to give the permission to say, like, hey, I'm mad for you. That was wrong and that shouldn't have happened. but let's talk about this now. It wasn't your fault, but this is something I listened to Dr. Deloney a lot more recently, and he talks about this idea so much. It wasn't your fault, but it is in your lap now.
Yeah.
It is in your responsibility on how you handle it from this point on, because it's not just how it affects you. You're going to determine how it affects the other people that get to know you. And that's heroic work, I think.
Yeah, that's wow. Yeah. The responsibility, like it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. I had a thought, but you started cooking and I lost it.
It's gone.
And it's just lost. It's gone in the cosmos, never to come back again. And maybe Holy Spirit bring it back.
Yeah.
It's important enough, but yeah, bro, it's sweet, man.
It is sweet. It is sweet. And I think we've talked about it a lot over the past couple weeks. It has to be done in community. And if you're sitting here and you're thinking, I don't have that, because I need to be super clear about this. We're not promised a great community in every season of our life.
Factual.
And we like to think that we are. Well, God wants me to have great community. All I hear about from these podcasters or these pastors or communicators, I'll say I need community, I need community, I need community. But I don't have it right now, and I'm trying. Sometimes that happens because if you had the community you needed, you'd be the one to blow it up. So you got to learn to reckon with you before you let other people do that.
True.
And sometimes you have to go through a loneliness season so that you can understand what God needs from you, what what needs God can only fulfill, and then what needs people have to fulfill. Because God set it up that we need Him and other people for different things, but we need them both. And so I think it's, if you're sitting here like, hey, I just don't have people around me, man, you just got to keep risk getting hurt until you find them. I think because some of us want to just like isolate and never deal with it again. And to me, it's like going and like freezing yourself because I don't want to get hurt anymore. But if you freeze yourself with like mortal wounds or things wrong with you, whenever you thought, they're still going to be there. They're still going to be there. Hiding away is not going to make you feel better. It's not going to add anything to your life. It's just going to compound everything that you feel, and you're alone. And you're not meant to be alone. And so the encouragement is like, if you don't have community, pray that God would give you some, but also pray that you do the work you need to be in community before you get there.
Right.
Because the deal is that eventually you're going to meet people that are going to say, I want to go that way as well. Right? I want to go that way as well. Let's say even hypothetically that you and I have a relationship that spans decades, which I hope we do.
Yeah.
That means that we'll still have only met each other when we were 25, 26, right? Which is, we pointed this out before. We also went to the same high school together.
Had the same mutual friends.
Had same mutual friends.
Had no clue we
Did
existed.
not know each other existed.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be like, that's silly. It's another thing to be like, maybe I would have messed it up. And knowing high school AJ, I probably would have messed it up.
Because I'm not as spoken as I am now. I was shy. I didn't talk to anybody. I was by my. I tell people, they're like, "What? That's not true." Like I was a fly on the wall. You would never.
Yep.
I was not a fly on the wall. I was a fly on the wall in the top piece of the corner.
Yep.
In the dark spot. You didn't see me. I tried to stay out of the way as much as I could, but that was I was trying to protect myself. We can dive into that another day, but
Yeah, that's the beauty then I think of looking at that and say, thank God. God, thank you that you did not introduce us until we were able to handle it. Right? In the same way that, like, I mean, this is a whole other thing too, but like, y'all want to meet your significant other. Some of y'all need to be thanking God He hasn't introduced you yet because you'd scare them off. Right? Or they wouldn't be ready. Right? So it's that whole balance. So that's why we ask those questions, right? Would you have dated me in high school if we knew each other? And it's like, honestly, probably not.
not right.
I don't know. I was a different person then. I'm a different person now.
Yeah, it's funny because we had that same question. We was out with friends the other day, and like, do you think we all would have been friends in high school? I was like, no, not a chance.
No.
I mean, if you played the same sport I did, maybe.
Yeah.
But other than that, probably not.
Would we have the depth of friendship that we have now? I don't know. Chances are with everybody here, no.
Because there's a lot of things that happened between when you were 18 or going to high school at 14 to where you are now. Absolutely. Between the ages of 20 and 26.
Yeah, you're lucky at 14 you have any friends at all because everybody's still trying to figure out who they are. Y'all all time bombs, all of you.
They ain't your friends. You don't even know yet.
You don't even know you yet.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's get to know you. Just get to know you.
You're worth that. You're worth
You
that.
are worth getting to know and to be known. And the beautiful thing is you're already known and fully known.
That's right.
By the Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe that you're fully heavenly known, no, yeah, you don't believe that you're fully known by the Heavenly Father, then you will believe that you will never be able to be known by people.
Yeah.
And so I just want to encourage y'all to genuinely honestly look and see what it looks like to be the person you needed when you were 12,
Whatever
when
that
you were
was.
14, when you were 16, when you were yesterday, right? Give yourself some grace. Take a breath. And just sit there. Yeah. Whatever comes up, comes up. If you are sitting there and you're thinking about, past pains, past traumas, past hurts, past disappointments, things that has happened to you, and the pains, the traumas, the disappointments that you've inflicted on others.
Right.
Forgiveness is for everybody. Forgiveness is all encompassing. You will forego the love, the joy, the peace that come with forgiveness if you don't accept it and if you don't give it.
Yep.
And so it has to start there.
Yeah.
If you don't start there, you're building on a house of toothpicks. One toothpick out of place and the whole house comes down. And that's not what we want for y'all. We want y'all to be built on a solid foundation, which is Jesus, and everything else will come from that if you allow him to lead you the way that he wants to lead you.
Absolutely.
And so this is lessons and blessings.
Sure is.
And I really pray that y'all actually, no, I'm not going to hope y'all are. We are going to pray. We're going to end this episode with a prayer, because if you made it this far, praise God, that means there was something that stuck out to you that you need to hear. And I just pray that even if it's just one person, like whoever that one person is, like, I'm so glad you stayed and listened to this episode, because I believe if you actually truly apply and look into your life and allow God to look and peer into your heart, like it says Psalms 139, God, search me, know me, see if there's any wicked way in me. If you allow him to search you, which he will if you allow him to, because he wants to show you who he's created you to be, not who you have become.
Right.
You will see that there's so much more that you don't know, and so much more like beauty in your life that you just have not discovered yet if you just allow yourself to get there. So I would love to pray for whoever's listening at this point. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for today. Thank you for allowing us to do this episode. I just ask that whoever is needing a touch from you in their heart, maybe they are discouraged, maybe they're feeling dysfunction, God, maybe they're feeling left out, maybe they're feeling alone. God, I just ask that you gently remind them that you are still there, that you are capable of taking the weight, taking the burdens from them, but not just taking it from them to change them and to strengthen them and to spur them on to be who all you have created them to be, God. I know we all struggle with, different traumas in our lives as they come up, and the different pains and the different valleys we have found ourselves in. But God, you have such a way of using those things to turn it into something beautiful, turn it into a story, turn it into something that not only strengthens that person, but strengthens the people who hear their story, because lo and behold, they went through the exact same things. If they can get through it, then man, maybe I can get through it too. And so, Father, I just pray that you give the listener the courage to dive deep and to honestly relive those things, call them out by name, and surrender those things. Whether that is by themselves in a holy moment with you, or in a holy moment with trusted individuals, God, however you want to work that out, God, I just pray they have the courage to do so, and that the people that are around them can receive them, that can hear them, that can love on them, encourage them, and also help them walk, and just to encourage them through the lens of Scripture. But God, this person is by themselves right now, and they're feeling all these things. God, I pray that you just comfort them and say it's going to be all right. Yeah. Give it to me. Like, you can trust me. I want to take this away from you. Like, my burden is easy, my yoke is light. Come to me, all who are labor-laden, so I might give you rest. And so, Father, I pray that you rest on them and their minds tonight, and begin to change them and turn their heart of stone into a heart of flesh, to let it just beat again. Yeah. One beat at a time, day by day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Well, this has been Lessons and Blessings, man. We love y'all. For real, we really do. We really love y'all. And I hope you've been blessed by this episode. This is Shell.
And AJ. Peace.